Korra was deciding, there's a pillow that's covered by a blanket. Not that anybody really needs to know, but she likes to chew anything and everything. But say hi to Korra. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi. Hi, bookish nerds. This is my lovely TBR cart. And in this video, we are going to talk about all of the books that we are going to put onto this TBR cart for fall. So this is going to include the magical readathon for Aurelium, which I am participating for the first time this year. We will also just have a multitude of fantasy, sci-fi, mystery thriller, some book club books, my Aurelium book club picks, and basically everything that I'm helping to accomplish in the next 3 months. So there's 30 some books. A lot of these are going to be books that you guys have heard of, or I'm very late to the game as to getting around to reading them, things like that. The first one that we're going to start with is my current read, which is Arch Enemies. We are continuing. I am about 85, 86 pages into this book. I am loving it already, and I'm so excited to show you guys the vlog that's coming for this one. The first book and the only horror kind of book that we're doing is Slewfoot by Brom. I was gifted this last year for my birthday, and I'm very excited to read this one. This is on an immediate TBR. It will probably come around in October because it feels like a very October book, but this is set in colonial New England. Slewfoot is the tale of magic and mystery, of triumph and terror from acclaimed author and artist Brown. So there are pictures and everything in here. It is a little damaged. I leave my window open upstairs and it got a little wet, so it's not in the best condition, but it's mine and I love it. So we're gonna see how well this fills up. The next books that we're gonna have is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I actually saw this on Book Talk a few years ago when it first published, hence why it's paperback. I don't typically like paperback books or hardback books. My God, I can't talk today. But Emma Skies is who got me onto this book, and it is supposedly some kind of retelling. Yeah, The Goose Girl, about stolen lives, thorny truths, and wicked girls at the heart of both. So basically this is Vanya Schmidt knows that no gift is freely given, not even a mother's love, and she is on the hook for one hell of a debt. Vanya, the adopted goddaughter of Death and Fortune, was Princess Gazelle's dutiful servant up until a year ago. That was when Vanya's otherworldly mothers demanded a terrible price for their care, and Vanya decided to steal her future back by stealing Giselle's life for herself. The real Giselle is left a penniless body when Vanya uses an enchanted string of pearls to take her place. Now Vanya leads a lonely but lucrative double life as princess and jewel thief, charming nobility while emptying their coffers to fund their great escape. Then one heist away from freedom, Vanya crosses the wrong god and is cursed to an untimely end, turning into jewels stone by stone for her greed. Vanya has just 2 weeks to figure out how to break the curse and make her getaway, and with a feral guardian half-god, Giselle's sinister fiancé, and an overeager junior detective on Vanya's tail, she'll have to pull the biggest grift yet to save her own life. So, I'm very excited. This one sounds really, really good. And then we'll show you the whole cart once we get everything on here. We're going to go through the fantasy books. I have them split into different sections. So we have fantasy, we have mystery thriller, we have dark academia, we have my Aurelium book clubs, we have the romance section, some sci-fi books, etc., etc. The next one that I have is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I really want to get the special edition of this book. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's something about that special edition book just gives me joy. The fact that this is just grain just kind of but the inside covers are so beautiful. If you're not familiar with Dress of the Emerald Sea, it is a Princess Bride retelling. So I've got quite a few retellings apparently, and which actually works really well to give me some different options for one of my Aurelian classes, but we'll get into that later. Tress is also on my 24 and 24, so I really want to get to that this season. The next two are hardbacks. Just, they're in different sections, but because of the way that my cart is, the hardbacks have to go on the top shelf. So we're going to discuss these two. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Typewriters, enemies to lovers. It's very similar to The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy from what I've heard. And as we all know, I absolutely adore The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. So I'm anticipating that this is going to be a good one. And Ruthless Vows actually came out last year on my birthday, so I'm sure everyone has heard about Divine Rivals, but this is my first time reading it. So, and then this was my book of the month book last October, I think. It's called This Spells Love. It is a young woman tries to heal her heartbreak by casting a spell to erase her ex from her past, but wakes up in an alternate reality in which she'd lost more than she wished for in this witty, whimsical friends to lovers debut. So, I love a good witchy romance. And then the last hardback book that I have, and is actually my first Ava Reed, A Study in Drowning, which I heard was immaculate last year. It's the dark academia vibe. Effie Sayre has always believed in fairy tales. She's had no choice since childhood. She's been haunted by the visions of the fairy king. She's found solace only in the pages of Ankara? Emrys Midrin's beloved epic about a mortal girl who falls in love with the fairy king and then destroys him. Effie's tattered copy is all that's keeping her afloat through her first term at the prestigious Illyrian Architecture College. So when Midrin's family announces a contest to redesign the late author's estate, Effie feels certain this is her destiny. But Hareth, I'm terrible with fantasy names, I'm sorry. But Hareth Manor is an impossible task. A musty, decrepit house on the brink of crumbling into a hungry sea. But when Effie arrives, someone has already made a temporary home there. Preston Hillary, a stodgy young literature scholar, is determined to prove Effie's favorite author is a fraud. As the two rival students investigate the reclusive author's legacy, piecing together clues through the letters, books, and diaries, they discover that the house's foundation isn't the only thing that can be trusted. There are dark forces, both mortal and magical, conspiring against them, and the truth may bring them both to ruin. So, I'm very excited about this. If I can get to it, I would also like to reread Ninth House and Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, but they are not on the immediate TBR. It's just gonna be a mood read for those ones because I've read them, and I've read Ninth House like 2 or 3 times now, and I love Leigh Bardugo. It's just it's her writing to me is magical. Then we have Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi, I believe is how you say her name. But this is they killed my mother, they took our magic, they tried to bury us, now we rise. Zeli Adebola remembers when the soil of Orisha hummed with magic. Burners ignited flames, tiders beckoned waves, and Zeli's reaper mother summoned forth souls. But everything changed once magic disappeared under the orders of a ruthless king, and the Magi were targeted and killed, leaving Zeli without a mother and her people without hope. Now Zeli has one chance to bring back magic, striking against the crown prince who is hellbent on eradicating magic for good. In a land where the snow leopardinaires prowl and vengeful spirits wait in the waters, the greatest threat may be Zeli herself as she struggles to control her powers and her growing feelings for an enemy. This is a trilogy, which has the beautiful sprayed edges that I got from Target. And Korra makes another appearance. The third book just came out, but I have heard great things about this book. Sid Bookworm, I'm also part of her book club, but she recently read it and gave an amazing review, and that's what actually got me to pick up this book. So I'm very intrigued. We'll see how this one goes. And then another one that I have is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I've heard that this was recommended by Zoran over on BookTok. My local book, Barnes & Noble girlies, recommended this one to me as well. They said that it is trippy, but it is one of the best fantasy books that they have read in a long time. Plus, it's got that nice flop. So this one's pretty well known as far as most people goes, but the little clippy thing is 2 warrior shepherds, an ancient god across a broken land to end the tyrannical reign of a royal family in the standalone epic fantasy from the author of The Vanished Words. So it is a standalone. I love a good standalone, especially for fantasy, because again, fantasy is not one of my more preferred genres. Fall, I read a lot of it, and you're going to see a lot of fantasy or witchy books or, those kinds of things in this list, but this is also on the list. Then one of my favorite authors I found, and it was because of Alone with You in the Ether, but I absolutely love Olivia Blake, and this one is the special edition paperback, first printing with the purple edges. But this is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I've heard mixed reviews about this one, but something about Olivia's writing is just impeccable to me. Alone with You in the Ether is one of my favorite books of the entire year so far. I think about that book daily, so I foresee good things about this. I might even try one for my enemy. I have quite a few by Olivia Blake. The Atlas 6 is also another one that I have the first book and might try and continue this fall and pick that up, but just kind of depends. And then we have another author that I have absolutely loved and adored is B.E. Schwab. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is another one of my favorite books of the year. So I started this last October, I think, but it wasn't the right time, which has been an ongoing theme with B.E. Schwab. It has to be the right time or the right space for me to read this. Otherwise, I will put it down and not think about it. But I have been told many, many times that this is one of the best trilogies that has been written for fantasy. My bestie's boyfriend actually is trying to get me to read this series frequently, so we're gonna finally give him what he would like to see and me read a book. We also have, that should be up there with Dark Academia. We also have Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott, which is a Baba Yaga retelling. So I'm very intrigued to see this one. I tried to read this one last year. This is a repeat Fall TBR from October. And then the last real fantasy book that I have, like dedicated adult fantasy book. There's been a few that were YA as well. I don't know what she's doing. She's digging at a pillow. I'm sorry. Is Godkiller by Hannah Canner. I have Sunbringer, but I won't. I want to get through Godkiller. It's a pretty small fantasy. I've heard mixed reviews on this one as well, but this one just it's a god killer. But she found a girl that her life is literally tied to a god, so she can't kill that god or she kills the girl. So they go on this epic adventure. It does have disability rep as well, from what I've heard. So I'm very intrigued by this one and hoping to get to it very soon. And then I think we're gonna go into the mystery thrillers. I read Pride and Premeditation, which is the first book in this series by Tirzah Price. Earlier this year was a buddy read. This is Sense and Second Degree Murder, which is based off of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. So these are all Jane Austen murder mysteries. So I love a good murder mystery. I'm very excited about this one. We're going to stick this one down here. The cart has no method to the madness except fantasy, and then certain books, the paperbacks have to be on the bottom shelf. Thursday Murder Club. I started the audiobook, and I think this is one that is better for me to read by paper instead of the audiobook. The audiobook was great, but it just wasn't keeping my attention. It's about these cute little older people in a retirement community that meet on Thursdays for a murder club, and they try to solve closed cases or unsolved cases. So this is a series. It has been talked about all over booktube. I'm very excited about this one and hope to actually make a dent in this series here this fall. Another one that this is a YA mystery thriller, but it is None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. It's two teenage serial killer survivors, Emma Lewis and U.S. Marshal candidate Travis Bell, are recruited by the FBI to interview convicted juvenile killers and provide insight on cold cases. So I'm very intrigued by this book. It has been sitting on my TBR for like 2 years. It does have a sequel. I don't have it, mostly because I want the paperback. And then the last one, it's actually the same book. It's just that this was the original indie publish, and this is the updated Little Wonders publishing. Or I guess they both were Little Wonders, but this one was republished. But these are written by G&A, my book friends on Book Talk. I'm very excited to actually get to read this October. Or this spooky season. The sprayed edges on both of these are so cute, and they are such sweet beans, and I'm very excited to help support them and very glad to have these on my TBR. And my dog is chewing. Brief intermission while I deal with my dog.
A few moments later.
Korra was deciding, there's a pillow that's covered by a blanket. Not that anybody really needs to know, but she likes to chew anything and everything. But say hi to Korra. Hi, baby. Hi. So the next ones that we have are sci-fi books. I'm really hoping to get to Skyward. It is also on my 24 and 24 books for 2024. I would really like to get this. I have the next 2 or 3 in the series and would like to make a dent in this year. I keep trying to get into Brandon Sanderson, and I just haven't found the entry point. I'm about 200 pages into Mistborn. I want to read Trust of the Emerald Sea. I've heard that's a really great starting point. I read the first 20 pages of Skyward, or the first 2 chapters, and I really like this one. I'm a big space nerd, so this is Spensa, and Spensa, her dad was a pilot, but apparently made some kind of transgression, and she wants to be a pilot, but they keep telling her that she won't be able to because of who her dad was. So she's basically setting out to prove everybody wrong. And that's how this book goes. And then this one is actually a sequel that we'll get to because it is part of my Aurelium info. And then the next 2 are the Dark Academia books that I have. Donna Tartt, Secret History. I really, really want to read this book. I got it for my birthday last year from Lexi, and the cart that I got is also for my birthday from last year from Drew. So I'm very excited. I really want to read this one. I've been saving it for spooky season. That's the only reason I haven't read it yet. I've been saving it for fall whenever I'm really interested in it. However, the print is so small, and I was not aware of this, but the flop is so good. Look at this. It's going to be a good time. And then the last one that I have is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. So this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition with the black sprayed edges. It's a lot of Shakespeare, which I grew up loving Shakespeare. It is one of my favorite. I love Shakespeare. But that is just how that rolls for me. The next books are all romance books. Point blank. Or cozy fantasy, just depends. The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic was big last year. I just didn't get around to it last year whenever it was released by Brienne Randall. It's supposed to be Gilmore Girls vibes, cozy fantasy, witchy, all of the good things. But yeah, Gilmore Girls and Practical Magic is what the blurb says for fans, and I love Gilmore Girls. It's the go-to fall show, so that is one that I am very excited for. Emily Wilds. This is the UK paperback. I love some of the UK paperbacks a little bit more than I should. I'm gonna attempt to actually read this and not get distracted or decide that it's not the right time for it. And then we have B.K. Borison's In the Weeds. This is the continuation of Love Light Farms, and I read that in December with book club. But this is a grumpy farmer and a no-nonsense social media influencer have another chance at love in this charming romantic comedy. I do love a romantic comedy. But I'm very excited for this one. The Business Casual just came out not too long ago, so I would really like to continue this series as well. And then I have to continue. I know that if you've seen my August wrap-up, I just reread Done and Dusted, and Swift and Saddled is no exception. I will be getting to Swift and Saddled in September, October, because Lost and Lassoed releases in November. So we are going to be completely caught up with Rebel Blue. Another one that is specifically, like, it feels fall-y to me is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. And this was actually a book club book last year, and I never got around to it. So we are going to try and make a dent in that one. We also have Forged in Magic by Jenna Wolfhart, which was recommended to me by my Barnes & Noble girlies. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited, but most of these books I am going to try and read on my physical TBR so we can make a dent into the insane amount of books that I currently have. There's at least 30 books that are going to be on this cart. There are 2 books. The one that I'm currently reading is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. This is book 3 of Glimmer Falls by Sarah Hawley, not Sarah Fawcett. My apologies. But this is a werewolf's guide to seducing a vampire. I read A Demon's Guide to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon last year and absolutely adored that book. It was a 5-star read. I've loved everything about it. This continues with different characters, different storylines, and I'm very excited to get to both of those books. I started Alistair and Kalinda, I think is their names. The second book. I started the second book already. We have 2 more witchy romance books to get through, and then we'll get into the Aurelium tentative TBR. I know I'm missing a couple books that I want to get to. I have 5 subjects for that, but Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I have 3 out of the 4 books in the series to get to. This is A Witch is Back and Ready for Revenge with a little help from her friends in this fresh, sizzling rom-com by Lana Harper. We have The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. I also have The Kiss Curse, but I read this 2 years ago and I don't remember anything about it. And Katie's reading always says how much she loves this book and rereads it every October, so I'm going to give it another go and see if it's as good as I remember. This was one of the books that I read whenever I first started getting back into reading 2 years ago, and yeah, we'll see how taste has changed or hasn't changed. Now, the month of September, in Sarah Crowley's book club, we are starting Throne of Glass and reading the entire series, and we are also doing Harry Potter. Now, I love Harry Potter. I already was planning to reread this series this year, so I'm very excited to say that I will be participating in the Harry Potter reread, and we'll be doing a movie watch every time we finish a book. So once a month, I think, except for book 7, we are splitting it into the 2 books and watching the movies whenever they should be watched. And then Assassin's Blade. I was told to read Assassin's Blade first by Shan, and I listen to Shan when she tells me to do things. So these are the 2 unofficial book club books. I am actually not reading this month's book club official book. It's just not one. It's Daydream by Hannah Grace, and I just haven't gotten around to Icebreaker. Icebreaker feels like a December book for me, so I will not be reading Daydream, even though you technically don't have to read it. I'm weird and I need to read it at the same time, so that's a me thing. So now we're gonna get to the tentative TBR for Aurelium, which is, one is a Kindle book, because I have to spell Maddie. So one of them is lore, which is you have to spell your name with the title of the book. So I am reading My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh, I believe is the author's name, since it spells Maddie in the list. I then have Psionics and Divination, which is... Nope, lore is the one that I have 3. One of them is that the villains have to... that the letters have to be repeated in the title 4 more times. So the book that I'm planning to read for that is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and C.L. Herman. This is book 1 of a duology, which is All of Our Demise is the other one. I put this on my TBR, I think last month, but it's one of those things where I did not get to it because I've been saving it for this particular thing. I saw the curriculum for Aurelium and I was like, oh, the L's in all and villain, perfect, that'll work. Plus it feels very fall, and it is 6 of Crows with bisexual representation. So I'm sold already. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that book there. The other 2 that I have is Serpent in the Wings of Night for the vampire prompt, which I believe is lore. So this is a chunky book, but I also have it on my Kindle so I can take it with me to and from work. And then the last one makes sense because I'm on a Marissa Meyer kick. We're going to do Cress. This is actually my favorite book out of the Lunar Chronicles. I wish I would have thought about filming these as I was rereading them and doing a whole Lunar Chronicles thing. But if you'd like to see like me rereading this, because I haven't reread this since I first got back into reading as an adult in like 2015. I have the original hardbacks of Winter and Stars Above and the paperbacks because I got them, but I have the original covers. They're also on Kindle Unlimited. I highly recommend the Lunar Chronicles. It is Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, and Snow White as retellings. And you also get a novella from the Evil Queen's perspective, which is the evil queen of Snow White. And then you get the bonus epilogues in all one book, which is Stars Above, and it's fantastic. And I love Marissa Meyer's writing. But yeah, so that is, let's see if I can get everything on the TBR here. Let's see. Getting books onto this cart is never easy. And I had them all on this cart earlier, so that's what doesn't make it make sense. You know that saying, whenever your dog is quiet, or your kids are quiet, you know that they're doing something that they're not supposed to. That's where we're at right now. So we're just going to put Serpent in the Wings of Night back there. And that is the TBR cart. So we have mostly fantasy up here, or the immediate TBRs, some more fantasy and the romance, and then the murder mysteries and romance books down here. And the last little bit for the fall TBR are the Kindle reads that I have planned. Again, this is over the course of the next 3 months, so this is all ambitious, and I'm probably not going to get to everything, but wrap-ups will be happening. First, we have Meddling Kids, which is supposed to be like a Scooby-Doo kind of grown-up horror mystery kind of thing going on by Edgar Cantero. We have Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson, which is the second in the series from Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. Very excited to pick that one up. Again, it was on Amazon on Kindle store for $2.99 as of yesterday. So I don't know if that deal is still ongoing or if it was a daily deal, but I highly recommend getting it if you can. Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Casimino is also here. Sadie by Courtney Summers, which is on Kindle Unlimited. The Last House on Needless Needless Street by Catriona Ward is also on the TBR. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. The God of the Woods, which is part of Sid's book club. I actually think it was the August book, so hopefully I can get that read in the next couple of days because I think we're doing a chat about the book club book. The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Bad Luck Charm, which randomly found me on Amazon, and it is a witchy romance thing, so probably October will be that one. The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst is supposed to be cozy romantasy, and I'm very excited about that one. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which would actually be my first Grady Hendrix, and ironically, one that I have looked at for many years because it was a special book in our Barnes & Noble Starbucks. Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers, and her new book that is releasing sometime in September, Blues Sisters, I think is what it's called. The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Mueller, and then Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. Those are all of the Kindle books. I tend to keep the horror and mystery books, anything that would be classified as horror, on my Kindle, just because I am not a horror girly. It really freaks me out. Fun fact about me, I was terrified that somebody from Ghostface from Scream was going to come and try and murder me when I was a child. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, so future me, edit that if you need to, but it was a really weird fear, and now as an adult, Scream is one of the only horror franchises that I will watch. Anything else freaks me out. I don't do horror movies, but my 15-year-old loves horror movies, so I tend to have to force myself to watch them every once in a while. So goofy, campy horror is things that I can handle, but legit horror or ghosts, Paranormal Activity also really freaked me out. So yeah, that was not a good one. If you have questions or if any of these are on your TBR, let me know. If you're participating in Aurelium, awesome. Let me know which one you took. I am a story weaver, I think is what it's called. My character's name is Shiloh Carroll, and she's a cute little wizard, a cute little elf with the big round glasses, and she's adorable. But yeah, so that's the fall TBR. I'm not doing individual monthly TBRs. I'm just going to be doing wrap-ups for what happens from here, and we'll go from there. Bye, bookish friends. See you next time.